Welcome to a future where the boundaries of healthcare are redefined. In this brave new world, nurses stand at the forefront, empowered with advanced skills, cutting-edge technology, and the autonomy to make life-saving decisions. Meet Nurse Mia Santos, a trailblazer in this evolving landscape. With expertise rivaling that of any physician, Mia navigates the high-stakes world of medicine with unwavering resolve, working hand-in-hand with doctors, yet leading her own charge in patient care.
Patient in room 7 needs immediate intervention. Initiating the nanodrone procedure now. Would you agree, Dr. Cole?
I'm with you, Mia. Monitoring vitals and ready to assist. This is your call.
In this realm, every decision is a test of courage, every heartbeat a countdown. The synergy between nurse and doctor is vital, yet the nurse's role is distinct, decisive, and crucial. Join us in Nurses 2030, Frontline Heroes, where we dive into the gripping stories of nurses who save lives, defy expectations, and work seamlessly within a team, yet hold the reins in the most critical moments. Prepare for a journey into the future of healthcare, where the heroes are not just in white coats but in scrubs, leading the charge in a new era of medicine.
Well, this is how an episode of a futuristic hospital drama show could sound like. In the good old days, as they call them, those shows always had a male doctor at the center. Nurses were female and marriage material at best. Some eventually became doctors, most faded away. This is a reflection of the past, and the concept of nursing has changed tremendously in the last couple of years. Nursing has become an academic discipline, even in Germany, and nursing became more and more diverse. In the proverbial good old days, there were doctors, and then there were, everyone else. A grey mass of work supporters, groupies, and objects for doctoral mansplaining. And today, we see the classic nursing, but alongside there is intensive care nursing, OR nursing, and many other fields. There are surgical assistants and physician assistants, to name a few. The latter are now on the rise in Germany, where in the US, this profession has been long known for their work with doctors. The US has been a forerunner here, and Germany is slowly catching up. Interestingly enough, PAs, as they are called in this quick-witted world, claim that the A does not stand for assistant anymore. They would rather have themselves called associates. And since words form realities, it will be interesting to collect different perspectives. This time again, we will have our podcast in English. The main part will be a live recording at the German-Israeli Health Forum of June 25th, 2024 in Berlin. That's why, again, we break the production pattern and air on a Wednesday. We thank the Bundesverband der Pharmazeutischen Industrie, BPI, for their continuous support of our podcast. For almost 1 year, they have covered our back and stood with us. Thank you for being such great partners in helping us provide quality information and in-depth research free of advertisements. If you in the audience are interested in supporting our Mehr Einsatzwagen journey, please feel free to contact us and contribute. It means the world to us. Welcome to the Mehr Einsatzwagen podcast, episode number 44. My name is Tobias Gantner. I'm an MD, PhD innovator and the founder of the Healthcare Futurist, a think tank and living laboratory of future medicines where we prototype, co-create and develop innovations at the crossroads of digital health, 3D printing, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and other breakthrough technologies. Today is another special edition, live from Berlin. where we are joining the German-Israeli Health Forum for Artificial Intelligence. In a couple of minutes, I will join my distinguished guests on the stage to talk about the future of nursing in the age of artificial intelligence. We are in the beautiful historical building of the Veterinary Anatomic Theater in Berlin, Tieranatomisches Institut, located on the Charité campus, Berlin's oldest surviving academic building. 200 years ago, veterinary students learned here the anatomy of animals. Today, we will learn the anatomy of modern medicine. The German-Israeli Health Forum for Artificial Intelligence brings together the Ministries of Health from both countries, startups, innovation managers, and high-ranked experts from the field of digital health to discuss the future of healthcare with a special focus on digitalization and artificial intelligence. Today, in the morning, we had an inspiring keynote by Professor Dr. Karl Lauterbach, the German Federal Minister of Health, and Esti Shelly, Director of Digital Health Department at the Israeli Ministry of Health. We would like to thank the European Leadership Network for inviting us to the event and trusting us to organize the debate that we will share with you today. Let's get to the point. What image do you have in mind when you hear the word nursing? Is your picture of nursing the young female that adorns the all-knowing doctor? Do you think nursing means bringing out food to the patient and spending time fixing coffee? Chances are you are stuck with Schwarzwaldklinik back in the 1980s. Think again, because things have changed dramatically in recent years. In this episode, we will look into the future of nursing that has already begun. As we have spoken with doctorpreneurs before, we are now turning to entrepreneurs who use technology such as artificial intelligence to make nursing more, patient-centric. We will look at what patients expect from changing roles in nursing and caregiving, and we will have a glimpse into the places where the future is being made, and sometimes is already here. We will talk about the shift from eminence-based medicine to team-based medicine. When the digitization of healthcare is discussed, doctors are usually in the spotlight. However, nursing stands to benefit the most from new technologies. Accenture estimated that AI could reduce nurses' administrative burden by 30%. Nurses, enhanced by clinical decision-making systems, can take over some responsibilities of physicians, becoming more integrated into multi-specialty care teams. Just remember what we have talked about, the No Doctor's Office, in a couple of previous episodes of our podcast. Redefining nurses' roles, reducing the time spent on administrative work, and freeing them from paperwork so they can focus on direct patient care are opportunities to discuss the nursing staffing crisis. Currently, 20 to 61% of nurses in various European countries say they plan to change jobs or leave the profession. Will new technologies and artificial intelligence help make the nursing profession more appealing, modern, prestigious, and less burdensome? On average, there are 3 nurses for every doctor. Given doctor shortage, how can we rethink the competencies of nurses, which can now be augmented by artificial intelligence capabilities? I will discuss this with 3 distinguished experts. Professor Dr. Thomas Fischer, researcher at the Protestant University of Applied Sciences, Dresden, Evangelische Hochschule Dresden, from Germany. Mina Lütgens, founder and CEO of Patients for Digital from Germany. And Dr. Shigal Shafran Tikva, director of the R&D Center at the Hadassah University Hospital in Israel. Let's start. So, Mina, I'd like you to start and kick it off with a short intro of yourself and maybe a little statement of where you're from and what your view on the world is.
Well, I think the best way to describe myself is that I'm kind of an expert in changing roles. So I call myself a healthcare activist sometimes. I've been a pharma audit manager in a former kind of life. I'm a mother. I'm a life enthusiast. There's one role in healthcare which can't be switched, and this is the role of a patient, and it's also the role which isn't chosen usually. So that's why this is my duty and my call, because I have a very strong identity as a patient. I have experienced also very strongly and emotionally what digital health and the future of healthcare and AI can bring to patients and to everyone else who wants to be healthier in future. So this is really my intrinsic motivation which brings me here today.
Thank you so much. Sigal, you are from Israel. You are an entrepreneur, as you coined the phrase entrepreneurs. You know, I came up with, I like to use the word doctorpreneur, and you made an entrepreneurs, which is really great.
Mine is much better.
Let's make the
always are better than.
Let's make the doctorpreneurs, okay? So probably we coin this phrase here. I love to play with words, as you obviously have seen with the Mehr Einsatz Wagen stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the way that we need to go from ecosystem, i.e. the big shot cheese doctor, into ecosystem where we all need to work together seamlessly.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to talk about nursing, entrepreneursing, which is amazing. So thank you for that. And I think that from ecosystem to ecosystem is working together, and doctor, nurses, entrepreneurs together. So I just want to start with a few facts. Did you know that the largest sector in every healthcare around the world is nurses? Did you know that nurses document the vast majority of the EMR, which is data? Did you know that nurses uses the vast majority of technology of medical devices in a hospital? Did you know that nurses work 24/7 bedside, which means they know best the user? So how come nurses are not part of the ecosystem? Maybe because of the ecosystem, but still they are not part of the ecosystem. And if I want to introduce myself as my vision, my mission is that nursing will be part of the ecosystem. Because if we will work together, the patient will benefit and we will get a real good healthcare system. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Thank you for your enthusiasm. And before I hand over to Thomas, this rings a bell with me. We have set up a couple of no-doctor practices in Germany, or what we call digitale Residenzpraxis, where we work with nurses in charge. So, but we've come a long way in Germany to that. And so I'm very happy to have Thomas here, basically as a representative of the German nursing system in the first place, and we'll then be later talking about how we made the way from historic, because we are here in a historic building, like Charité, breathes all these spirits of the old days. And please, Thomas, introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm one of the first university-trained nurses in this country. This has been in the last century, to be honest, but still. And over the last couple of decades, I've become very impatient with what we're doing and how we run healthcare. And it's interesting that I become even more impatient the older I get. So I'm trying to prepare nursing students for the future, and trying to inspire their revolutionary instincts to push against the boundaries of the system. I really like that. So I'm a professor of nursing at a small university in Dresden, and we don't wait for regulation much more. So we started a community health nursing master's 5 years ago now, and now the government is catching up and making up the law for that. So I think that's what I like to do.
So it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission, right?
That's what Sigal said, I think, in our last workshop. And honestly, I don't think we can wait for policymakers to come up with great policy and then we will all follow. It's got to be a grassroots development from knowledgeable, enthusiastic nurses, doctors, physios, OTs. We need to change the system from daily practice.
But let's hold a little bit here. I've worked as a doctor in a number of medical fields in different countries. So I've worked in the US, I've worked in Switzerland, I've worked in China, obviously Germany too. And I've seen approaches to nursing vary big time. So there are countries where this synergistic working is much more happening already. And there are countries that qualify due to the separation of nursing and physicians and other specialties. Thomas, could you give us a little bit of an historic insight where that comes from? Because obviously this is history, you know.
How many days do I have for this lecture? No, just let me, I think I prepared a few dates. So obviously lots of what we do in nursing comes from religious duties originally. So Bikur Cholim from the Torah, everything else from other faiths. And we've come a long way because we're a profession. This is not religious duty we're doing. But the way we arrived where we are is quite, happened quite differently. So the first professor of nursing became a professor in 1910. Adelaide Nutting at what today is Columbia University in New York, 1910. That's quite a while. And around the same time, Agnes Karl in Germany advocated to have a 3-year structured vocational training established for nurses. And I'm afraid to say it took Germany until 1965 till that really happened. So we weren't very quick on catching up. And by that time, Hadassah's nursing school, for example, had a 3-year program running for 47 years already. And when it began in 1918, I found a great quote, apparently, German-trained doctors used to working with nuns thought nurses must be constantly available, and the Russian doctors objected to them contributing opinions about patients. I mean, imagine that, a knowledgeable nurse standing up for a patient and sharing their knowledge. I mean, that's insane. And in 1975, the Hebrew University started Israel's first Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And again, it took Germany until the year 2020, that's not a mistake, that's 45 years, a bachelor degree, an additional regular pathway to enter the nursing profession. So, and I think that tells you something about where we come from, and it leads to quite different levels of potential maybe in the system. Maybe that's one part of the answer here.
Well, academic nursing, to my recollection, was quite unknown in Germany. So when I was in medical school, or did my civil service at a hospital, and I just follow this, you know, Thomas, what you're doing, what Patrick Jahn is doing in Halle, for instance, with the studies of evidence-based nursing. But Sigal, you are much more advanced in these terms. In terms of academic nursing, you know, I guess doctors are also afraid, you know, when they are doing rounds, you know, and in Germany you have to write a doctor thesis in order to be literally a doctor, you know, you don't get like an MD as you do in the US. And I guess they are afraid of the situation that in wards the patient might address the doctor who is not as a doctor who has not yet achieved his doctoral thesis, while the nurse is literally like you are a doctor, you know, which then would be a great narcissistic insult for the medical doctor profession. How do you deal with this? You know, you are a PhD in nursing, you work at university hospitals, you work with doctors. Are Israeli doctors so much different? Can they take this, or how do you do this?
First of all, I have to say that even patients tell me, but you're a nurse, how come you're a doctor? Are you a doctor or are you a nurse? Who are you? I'm asking the same question, who am I? However, I think that from the MD perspective, I feel like they just kind of used to it, and I think that the Israeli nurses are more unpolite, or maybe not. This is not the right word, but they're very strong, and we are opinion, and we have our opinion, and we have the thing that's called the patient advocacy. So if we feel that we need to save the patient, we will do everything. Even stand still against the doctor. Yes, we are doing it. So in Israel, because we have bachelor degree since 50, 70 years ago and master degree and PhD, so I think that it's quite obvious that we are part of the conversation, part of the physician round. I don't know why it's still physician round and not patient round. It's not about the physician, it's about the patient. So I think that we are part of the discourse, more or less. I want to be part of the digital tech discourse.
We come later to digital tech. Mina, you are a patient representative, and I know it's a hard job being a patient representative because, I mean, there are so many patients out there, and there's the famous quote by Lichtenberg, if you are not a patient, you're just not properly examined. But my question here is, do we really need to protect patients from doctors, and should nurses do that? If you take these two concepts that we just heard, you know, the one being more the paternalistic, doctor-driven concept, and the one I'm standing up to the doctor and I'm telling him a thing or two.
No, I don't think we need to protect anyone from it. In principle, I think it's very important that we stick to the assumption that most people in healthcare work there for a reason and not in investment banking. So if there are errors here and there, or probably mistreatments, it's not because people are just bad or want to hurt someone. It's because systems are probably not allowing them to conduct their job or their task the way they probably would prefer to do, or the way they would be better actually at doing so. And that's exactly why this topic here is so crucial. Talking about the role of nurses, talking about the potential of AI, of the future, of what's actually hopefully in a disruptive way, really changing the way we as humans act together in this system, which is the one crucial system where humanity comes together for a society to help each other in their professions.
All right, we have to hold our horses shortly because I need to structure this a little bit here. So I'd like in the first layer to talk about the different concepts of nursing. And of course, you know, the disruption, the thing that wants to break through is technology. Now, Mina, you have founded an organization which is called Patients for Digital, i.e. technology, or the digital that you use in computers. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you envision or how you see technology being properly used to protect patients, to make patients' journeys, if there are journeys at all, or patients' bumpy pathways, a little bit smoother?
I would love if I could give now the one kind of guideline or direction how to do that. The crucial part why we thought, and I think it's so important to really empower patients and give the voice of patients or citizens for their health journey, as I prefer to call it nowadays, a more active role is because whenever we have such quick development as we have now, there are so many interests in the air. There are so many strong groups looking for, and that has a good reason, of course, trying to bring up their interest. The easiest thing, of course, always is like, where's the money, etc. But in the end, there's also, as we had the regulational part, etc., the question, how can we tackle all the challenges ahead with regard to budget, etc. So the role of patients and citizens here to get more into it, to play a more participatory role, is a tremendously chance, not only to make the system better, but to actually make it more effective, take them on at the point where they actually can play an active role, and also improve the outcomes of healthcare, because we have seen it in different or in other sciences that a participatory approach improves the outcome of science tremendously, and we have to catch up when it comes to medical science.
I see Siegel rocking up and forth in her chair and nodding, and now here's your opportunity to amend to what Mina just said.
No, I just want to mention before, you said nurses needs to protect the patient from doctors. Never, ever. I believe and I know and I hope that physicians and nurses, all of us physiotherapists, we work for better care for patients. It's not protecting from each other. It's just working together for the patient. And this is very important for me to mention and to emphasize. This is the ecosystem when we work together.
And how do we, to come back to my question in the second round, how do we improve this ecosystem on behalf or with technology? What kind of technology do you see? What kind of technology do you use? Is it documentation? Is it electronic patient charts? Is it data donation? Is it artificial intelligence, which I would like to come to in the third round?
Okay. So I think that technology is multiplying our job, nurses and physicians and every professional healthcare. We need to use robotics, like cobotics, to work together with the robot in order to improve ourselves for better care. We need and we use algorithm. For example, I developed an algorithm with Timna, with our MOH, algorithm that can predict the creation of pressure sore for hospitalized patients, which is definitely totally different attitude to pressure sore, which is a huge impactful disease. So I think we must use technology, nurses, physicians together. The point is not the nurses that uses technology or the physician that uses technology. It's what we need for better care, to give a better care for the patient, and which technology we must use for him. This is how I see it.
Now I'm curious, you talked about a robot. When I'm at academic institution, nursing academic institution, I always encounter a robot called Pepper.
Yeah,
But Pepper can't do anything. Pepper's just standing there idly saying hello or don't touch me or stuff like that. But I don't see a point in spending 20,000 grand for or I don't know how much it is, but it's not cheap. And I know everybody's using a robot. Now, how are you doing this? Like in real terms, give us a story.
The Pepper is a navigator. It's kind of navigator. It's not a cobotics. Cobotics, for example, in Japan, they sell for geriatrics diapers more than they sell diapers for babies, which means that they have a lot of old people and they are in nursing home. And they suffer from nurses shortage. So just imagine, and they're working like this because they have a lot of robotics in nursing home, that if I can wear a robot on my hands and I can do the changing position with the robot, instead of working two nurses in order to make this change position, this is cobotics. And the robotics won't replace nurses or physicians. They will replace nurses that won't use robots. They will replace MD who won't use algorithm and AI. But what I think is that algorithms, robotics, we have to work co-tech, and this is the way that it is amplifying us.
So it's like an exoskeleton basically that helps you lift stuff or do stuff. And okay. All right. Now, Thomas, about shortage of nurses, I read a figure that the ratio, the doctor-nurse ratio is 1 to 3. So there's 1 doctor, 3 nurses. Might be true, or might be around something like that. Now the number of doctors is decreasing. Obviously, also the number of nurses is decreasing. 60% of people in nursing think or deliberate or ponder upon probably leaving the profession. How do we make, on behalf of technology, this profession more interesting, more sustainable for people to stay in it?
Yeah. So those statistics are totally dodgy, but the trend is clear. We need to invest in our next generations. If we not only see Pepper around, which really does make a lot of sense, if we can attract people who actually want to work digital, who want to work in technology, there's lots of work to do in healthcare and as a doctor and as a nurse, and we need nurses who are technologically savvy. We need those nurses to develop the applications, to develop the robots, to develop the processes. Nursing is probably the most varied field in healthcare. You can have a different role each day of the year if you want to, and change through the healthcare system. And being a nurse that develops technology and uses technology is just one more facet that will attract a different demographic into the workforce. Having said that, if students come out of our nursing school, they need to be prepared to take this technological next step. Most nursing schools in this country, I think, do not prepare nurses properly for what's coming technologically, and that's partly due to regulation, because our courses are totally over. There's just too much stuff that we don't need anymore in the groundwork. We need to refocus our curricula, and I believe that's true for medicine as well. In all health professions, the curricula need to refocus on real future skills and on creative thinking, and not on training for every single situation you might encounter in your work life. So let's change the curriculum.
And we come to this in a second. You know, there's this joke, what's the difference between a medical student and a philosophy student? You give a telephone book to them and tell them learn it by heart, and the philosophy student will ask you why, and the medical student will say when, until when.
Exactly.
And so you talk about creativity. You know, I was never taught creativity in medical school. I was rather taught learn this, and then you have an exam, and then you have to reproduce this. So this is the will to change these curricula?
Well, we do. We push the envelope as far as we can and as far as the regulators let us. So working, for example, with patient cases, real patient cases, and making students design a patient or a health journey or a solution for this case, you can do this with a student. Students come up with great ideas, and that will help them replicate this in their future work life. And we need to make room in our curricula and not just ask them questions that they will not need to know later, because there might actually be an algorithm or an assistant or a system that will assist them in finding the answer to a current diagnosis or whatever. But I believe that imagining and thinking about things that have not yet developed and making technology and treatments and nursing interventions applicable to the individual patient, that's what we need to focus on. We don't need to focus on learning the textbook by heart anymore.
How does it look like in Israel? In terms of how are your curricula configured to actually teach the students that come out of schools what life as a nurse is all about?
So in Israel, we have made this change. Our Ministry of Health, the nursing division, now in a curriculum, it's mandatory to study one course on innovation, entrepreneurship and innovation. I teach this course. We teach how to think innovatively. I mean, nurses, they always face unmet needs, because hospital or MOH clinic, it's always, you don't have everything that you need. And when you have unmet need, this is the place that innovation begins. Mm-hmm. So we teach them how to think, we teach them how to be creative, how to look on situations and how do you solve it. And sometimes it can be even low-tech. It's not always have to be very sophisticated. It can be a low-tech solution, and we applaud for that. So we can create this thinking. Afterwards, we also do courses for nurses in a hospital and in the clinics, courses for innovation and entrepreneurship. But I have to say that still, even in Israel, that we are really engaged to all this creativity and innovation, we are lack of resources, time, money. Sometimes we don't have it, and you can encourage nurses, let's do that, invent this, invent that, but who will pay for that? In what time? When?
Mina, how ready are patients for creative innovation? When we started our first no-doctor practice in rural Baden-Württemberg, we had a public gathering, and they have a scarcity of doctors. And then they said, we don't want this tech stuff, we want our mountain doctor back. You know, like the guy from TV that never exists, you know, good-looking, sharp guy with all the relationship issues. And I told him, look, it's not about getting rid of your mountain doctors, it's about adapting to new technology, probably also trying to manage the scarcity of resources, as Jessica just said, you know, in a creative manner. How ready are patients to embrace changes in the healthcare system, while they come from a cover-it-all history?
I think there isn't the patient. I think that's the most important thing. And are they ready? It depends on what their need is, I would say. It tremendously depends on that. And in terms of their role of readiness to kind of bring all those stuff into the real world, it pretty much depends on exactly those roles we are here discussing. Because how many stories are out there where nurses or individual healthcare workers have been crucial to a very individual, tremendously great story, where certain things popped up, which probably haven't been seen by the regular examinations, etc. So this is what I think what I immediately thought when you talked about this creativity and this room for also combining dots. And this is from my perspective something patients and different people in a situation where they need health care just need to experience. So if you go out there and ask them, of course they are used to old stuff, and this is what humans just are everywhere. We are always afraid of change, and in those times where change doesn't only mean things are not the old way, but we are also surrounded by kind of things which are really inducing fear, it is even more important that we address this openly and focus on the opportunities and the chances and reduce as much as possible the risk associated with it, without, of course, ignoring it. So being aware, making them part of the journey. And one thing, I think everyone who ever have spent a day or weeks or whatever time in hospital knows that it's so difficult to navigate the system, seeing how much pressure is there on everyone, trying to get the best out for themselves or for their relatives, while not making the whole situation even worse by just yelling at everyone. So in the end, from my point of view, the most crucial part is less replacing. Efficiency is always there. I mean, since industry automation, we're talking about efficiency, but what AI is really revolutionizing from my point of view. You want to come to that later? Yeah. Okay. In the end, people in healthcare want to see human beings. They are the big, next to their sickness, next to the suffering. The next level of suffering is, in a situation like that, experiences the suffering of feeling lonely, feeling lost, and seeing people who are in the same way lost as them. And that's just what hopefully changes.
Thank you. Now, I feel the tension. It's literally in the air. You guys want to talk about artificial intelligence. Yeah, so people holding to their chairs. I just want to contrapoint here a little bit. We are in this anatomic theater. It's a building that's probably 200 years old, and it breathes this air of academia, you know, where you had a lecturer, somebody that was reading a book that was probably dating back to the Roman times, and then somebody else was dissecting animals, and people were looking at this, and this is how the academic tradition in Germany came up. And now, and this obviously created a feeling of change is great as long as for me everything remains the same. So somebody else may change, but I want to stay the same. Now in November 22, we had this thing come out we called ChatGPT. And it was obviously not the first time that we tried to work with artificial intelligence, but it was something that took to the masses, that people then really could relate to, then that did their homework for them, that did help them structure their bachelor thesis. It just turned out on Medline that obviously a lot of papers in Medline are being at least worked over with ChatGPT. So we've got something tangible in our hands. And this does something to us. This does something to us as patients in this area, because you ask ChatGPT or a Gemini or whatever, and they'll give you an answer, and you need to confront your doctor with it, and then there will be a discussion that you probably don't want because you can't stand it. And how do we integrate this new technology now, going by the name of AI, into being a patient, into being nurses, into ecosystems, trying to turn them into ecosystems? You want to go first with the patient perspective?
What is the core of an ecosystem? It's complexity. So, yeah, patients are playing a crucial role. They are the ones who are receiving healthcare services. In future, it will be a tremendously amount of different pathways, journeys, approaches, and that's an opportunity as well. Maybe in future it's not necessarily the only way to, or it's not necessarily that I have to go and find that discussion. Maybe if I'm happy with talking to that symptom checker, chatbot, whatever, and the next step is clear for me to, I don't know, get a certain medication which does not need a prescription, or I just need physiotherapy or whatever, or I know, okay, the next physician I have to go is 200 kilometers away, then I don't need to go into this discussion. However, it is crucial that exactly those hurdles, those kind of disruptions are tackled and are discussed, because they are taking energy from everyone and it's unnecessarily, so we have to build those islands where we see how great things could be.
Siga, what is your experience using artificial intelligence? Because I see when I look through your CV and when I see what you do and what is possible and what is being done in Israel, in Tel Aviv with startups. How are you employing artificial intelligence in your everyday work and also in your academic work?
So first of all, I just want to remind everyone that when Google came in and we said, don't use Dr. Google. Dr. Google is killing you, is like this and like that. We fought Dr. Google. And today we have Professor GPT, which is a totally different issue. And I think that we mustn't repeat our mistake and fight against it. We need to work with it. We need to work in few dimensions. In dimension it's not hierarchy, but to take the data, to use the data, and to map our unmet needs. Nurses, physicians, clinical unmet needs, to see how data can help us to treat better for the patients. Prediction, it's amazing because you can prevent, it's called for action. To see how can we predict, and then to involve patient with our decisions, to create a committee, a steering committee with the patients to see their problems, because sometimes, and I found it during my journey in innovation when I mapped unmet need, we thought as nurses that we know the patient, we know his problems, and when we interviewed and mapped their unmet need, suddenly we realized that it's a little bit different than what we thought. So we have to recruit everyone in a steering committee and to decide what and to which area to pay attention. And then I think that the implementation phase, there mustn't be an implementation phase, because implementation, it means that you're asking someone work differently. No, I just want that the alert will be based on the algorithm, and I'll see the alert for pressure sore, for example. I took all the data for the to create the algorithm. Okay, I didn't tell anyone, not the physician, not the nurses, do that instead of this, do that instead of this. No, don't interfere their work. All the algorithms should be at the back office and give them the alert or the instructions, but don't interfere. This is the way that you can embed it, and you will not get I forgot the word. Restraint? No. Yes.
Restraint?
Restraint. This is the way. You should embed it in the EMR, and the physician and the nurses should not do anything differently they know.
So it's like a co-pilot basically that
helps you.
Blinks and says, look at that. Did you consider this? Don't forget that. And
navigate.
And you can turn it off. You know,
yes.
Say, yes, I thought about that, but it doesn't matter. Turn it off.
Exactly. And navigate. It helps the physician and nurses, kind of decision support system that helps to navigate how to treat the patient better based on the data, the algorithm, and all the AI that we created for the professional caregiver.
So I hand this over to Thomas now. You know, we're now talking about two typical German things like legislation, regulation. So legislation is, can we do this? Like, how can we embody this, what we've all just heard, into curricula? And legislation, can we, or regulation, can we actually use this kind of data? You know, are we allowed to reuse data that we have actually obtained for something different, but now it comes in handy to ask different questions? And what's the role of nursing in that?
Oh, I wish I could say nurses should be at the forefront to making this happen in a meaningful way. I think we need to step up. We need to get ourselves educated about the process Sigal just outlined, and realize the potential for shared decision making. Because if we put shared decision making at the heart of what we do in healthcare, AI will help us to be better shared decision makers. Look, I think that nurses need to be not only patient advocates and partners in healthcare. I think we need to be educating, I'm using a very friendly word here, our regulators to come up with better regulation and to educate them about the reality of healthcare. And I feel that oftentimes regulation is inspired by regulation and by minimizing work for policymakers. I know I'm being I'm probably going to get some pushback for that, but and we need nurses to actually be on board and tell about our work and make this a part of what we're doing, because most regulators and most policymakers do not understand nursing work yet.
So we are up for the last round. I'm looking to the audience because you might ask yourself, when is this guy finally going to stop and leave us off the hook? So I'm going to have one last round of questions for the group here. And is there someone in the audience that wants to ask a question to the prestigious panel? Now show your hands, or be silent forever in this respect. Okay, all right. So you don't want to intervene between a hungry audience and lunch or dinner. Okay, so last round of questions here. Usually my last round is always I start a sentence and I want you guys to finish the sentence, which in a talk where we talk about the future doesn't make sense because you're finishing stuff. Now the future is just about to start. So my idea is if you were to write a novel, you know, like we started with, if you're about nursing in the future, what would be the plot and how would it start? Like, what would be the first sentence? Who wants to go first? You go first. Okay, Thomas. Brave heart.
This was a hard one, or is a hard one. So, and I'm pretty impatient, so it can't be about the very far away future. It needs to be like something in the near future. And I'm thinking the book would be about a vision that where nurses are healthcare leaders in an ecosystem that's built around patients and family needs, and not around professional domains and kingdoms. So. My novel would probably start something like this. So, yes, let's give it a go. Let's start the first nurse-led patient and family-centered digital health clinic in the country. Set this group of phenomenal nurses and the patient representatives around the table joined in. Let's do it.
Thank you. Sigal.
I didn't think about it, but the first word that came up to me is care tech, because technology is wonderful, algorithm is wonderful, robotics is wonderful, but caring, it's the most important in nursing. Caring, it's nursing. And I think that if we will combine care and tech, we can really, really move forward to 2030.
So the entrepreneurs...
Don't forget the soul.
So yeah, that's right. So the entrepreneurs will be talking about soulful care tech.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Let's write a book.
Let's write a book. All right. Mina.
I think plot-wise, I would love to transfer the story of my sister, so my niece, she is a Down girl, and she developed leukemia at her birth. She had 2 rounds of leukemia, and I would love to transfer that in the future and rewrite the story with less suffering. And because we all know a mother with a newborn suffering from leukemia, that's one of the most painful situations in a hospital for everyone involved, emotionally wise. And I think the start would be something like, well, week 3, we're really looking forward to Nurse Casey coming in, but somehow my little daughter Leah is always laughing most when Robbie comes in, the funny bot.
And that's all for today's episode of the More Einsatz Wagen podcast. I will remember 3 key optimistic takeaways from today's debate. First, nurses represent a huge untapped potential in healthcare. They are the ones closest to the patient. With their unique combination of empathy, commitment, and new technologies like artificial intelligence, the profession faces a great opportunity. Let's take advantage of this to provide modern and humane healthcare. Secondly, artificial intelligence can expand the competencies of nurses, and nurses are extremely open to new technologies. In this way, they can become a strong link in the care team, stepping out of the shadow of doctors. Third, patients and nurses share a close relationship. Studies show that patients are more likely to confide in nurses than in doctors. Nurses are at the patient's bedside more than doctors. They will be the backbone of patient-centered, precise and personalized healthcare, supported by modern technology. Digitalization and the human factor in healthcare need not be mutually exclusive. Do you agree? Share your opinion with us on LinkedIn or email us. You'll find all the details in the show notes. Thank you to the German Pharmaceutical Industry Association, BPI, Bundesverband der Pharmazeutischen Industrie, for the support that makes our podcast possible. A big thank you also to Lea Ledwon for organizing the entire conference, and Carsten Ovens, CEO of Elnet, who hosted the forum. In the next episode, which will be number 45, we will talk about healthy longevity again. Our 10th episode on potential immortality will see the mental side of longer lives. We will speak with the female doctorpreneur Irmi Huber about her experiences in being a doctor, an entrepreneur, and after all, a human being. riding all ups and downs of life. Furthermore, we will talk some about our next in-person event coming up that will provide an opportunity to meet together. On July 3rd, we will be at Digital Health Center Bülach, just north of Zurich, for a great innovation day. Thanks to Stefan Lienhardt and team for having us there. Find all the infos in the show notes. Tune in to hear from us. And as always, thank you for your participation in the creation of the future.